Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn session. Can you all hear me? I hope so. Flag if you can't hear me. We'll give it a few more seconds until we get started. We have 30 minutes today, right? And I'll hang on for any questions that you may have. So while we are still waiting, thank you, Melissa, for confirming that you all can hear me. While we are still waiting, why don't you introduce yourselves in the chat? You know, it's always great to have the opportunity to network with others, to see what others are doing, what brings you here. Share whatever you would like to share. And meanwhile, while we are still waiting and you're sharing the reason why you're here, who you are, where you're from, I will share our worksheet for today. You should be able to create a copy of this worksheet when you click on the link. And let me know if that does not work. I'll try it myself just to see. Okay. Okay, perfect. So it does not work. Says I need to request access. Oh, thank you so much. It seems I had not set the sharing options correctly. All right. Okay. This should be all set. Okay. So, all right. A few more folks joining us. All right. Okay. Hi, Toby. Hi, everyone. So great to see some of you who I haven't seen in a while. All right. So let's get started with our session. So I just told everyone else, you know, for all of those who are still joining us, please introduce yourselves in the chat. Say, you know, what is your role? For which organization are you working? And also, what brings you here? All right. So let's get started. First of all, welcome to our Lunch and Learn session. As I mentioned before, I'm going to hang on for a few more minutes after this session if you have any questions. And if you need to drop off early, I will send the recording out probably next week because, oops, someone else is joining. I'll send out the recording next week. So don't feel any pressure to stay until the end. I shared the worksheet with you. I should probably share it again. Give me 1 second. All right, here we go. So it seems to work for everyone. All right. Okay, let's get started. So who am I? Why am I talking to you? My name is Anna. I'm based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I'm a former executive director turned consultant. And my mission is to help executive directors raise more money. And that brings us to today's session or today's topic, because when I was an executive director, or basically in all of my nonprofit roles that I held in the past, which was director of community engagement, executive director, grant writer, in all of these positions, I felt this overwhelming responsibility to get our pitch, our story just right? Because at the end of the day, as a nonprofit leader, whichever position you're in, and when I say that I work with executive directors, that means everyone is welcome. Just wanted to mention that, right? So as a nonprofit leader, no matter in which position you're in, whether it's the executive director or the grant writer, you need to inspire communities. And for the longest time, that's what I felt is so hard, because I absolutely wanted to get it right, because you need to inspire communities to support you, right? Oh, this is not the right slideshow. Anyway, then I'll just do it offhand. So why is that important? Why is it important to inspire communities? If you do not inspire communities, you risk, I'm still admitting people, you risk a variety of things, right? So first of all, you need to tell an inspiring story to get money, right? So here we are coming to the question of, fundraising. You need to inspire your donors so that they feel committed and willing to support you financially to help you with your cause. The second reason is obviously that you want to make sure that your staff is aligned, or that, even if you might be not in a factual leadership position in a nonprofit organization, maybe if you're a junior associate, you still need to get buy-in to your ideas. So you need to inspire others to do whatever you want them to do. So as an executive director, you need alignment with your board, with your staff, and you need to help them understand, why is this work so important? And a third, of course, you also need to inspire communities. You need to get support from the government. You need to get support from public stakeholders. And that's where storytelling comes in. And that's the tool that stories can help you. Stories are the tool that can help you inspire others to get the support that you need and get the funding that you need. The problem is just that many times storytelling seems so incredibly complicated, right? So what you often hear are these different communications frameworks. So problem, agitate, solve, know, like, and trust, the hero's journey. So it seems kind of overwhelming. What am I even supposed to do? How does storytelling work? And I'm here today not to give you the cookie cutter framework that is gonna always work for you. I'm here today to help you understand that fundraising is actually just about sharing your very own story. And that is not complicated. So how are we gonna do this today? First of all, I wanna hear from you how you feel about storytelling overall, because there's probably a reason that you signed up for this webinar. So I want to know, how easy or difficult do you find it to tell your own story? And how easy or difficult do you find it to tell your organization's story? So polls are coming in. We are a smaller session today, which is really nice. So we'll have the chance to answer any questions. Okay. Results are coming in. Okay, so what we see, so I'll end the poll and share the results. What we can see is that there is really a wide variety of answers. You seem to be spread across all the different, across the spectrum, from finding it very easy to tell your own story to finding it rather difficult to tell your own story. So it seems to be almost like, almost an even spread, with a tendency towards feeling it's kind of neutral, not ideal, but I can make it work. With regards to how easy or difficult do you find it to tell your organization's story, we see a similar pattern with a tendency towards having more difficulty. So it seems to be easier for folks to share their own story over sharing their organization story. All right, so that is super interesting. I stopped sharing the results. So what are we going to learn today? First of all, why storytelling, right? Why is storytelling so important? I already explained why that is to some extent, but what is the core reason for telling stories? The second aspect on our agenda will be to tell your own story. So how can you make that easy and simple for yourself? And then finally, we will get to your organization story. How can you tell your organization story in a simple and straightforward way? All right, so why storytelling? Obviously, we are in a nonprofit sector. Nonprofit sector is typically reliant on unrestricted funding from individual donors and also from foundations and corporate sponsors. So you need support in the form of fundraising dollars, right? What needs to happen for that, for you to achieve that? Oh, Jen of Cambridge Neighbors asks, what do you mean by your own story? So your own story meaning, why are you doing this work? Why do you work for the organization that you work for? That is what I mean with your personal story. Okay, so back to why storytelling. Why storytelling? You need donations. What needs to happen for you to receive those donations? Anyone? Throw it in the chat or raise your hand. What is a precondition for you to receive donations? Buy-in, value alignment. Right. Okay. That sounds right. Program, right? So your donor basically needs to care. Why should they care? Brian says a mission, something important being done. Match with donor vision. Exactly. Right. I think we got the basics right. So basically you need two things. You need an emotional connection and you need a reason to give. So you need to appeal to the heart and to the reason of your donor. So these are the two things that we need. And the way we can achieve these two things is in telling stories. And more specifically, and that is for me, the storytelling and fundraising success recipe, the most important one between the two is the emotional connection. And the emotional connection can be achieved through sharing your own personal story, why you care about this cause. And the second aspect, which I think, even if you just get that piece right, that's awesome. However, if you want to get the second piece right as well, that is your organization story, right? So we want to appeal to the heart and the reason of the why of your organization and the why of why your donor should support your cause. Okay, so let's get to the first aspect, right? We have only 30 minutes, so we are going to run through this. So if you could now pull up your worksheet, you will find your first prompt. And sorry. Okay, let me back up a little bit. So what I said earlier, right? So there are so many frameworks of how to tell your very own story. And I personally used to get pretty overwhelmed with all the different things that I could be doing. As I mentioned, there are so many different communications frameworks, like the 7 C's of communication, the hero's journey, before, after, bridge, know, like, and trust, right? So it can be overwhelming. And in fact, I was so nervous before funder calls that I used to pace up and down the street just to practice my pitch, right? Because I was so stuck on, oh my God, I need to get this right. I need to really nail every single word of what I'm going to say to this funder so that they would support me. That's how nervous it made me to talk to someone, because I really wanted to get it right, because it's about inspiring. And the more I practiced the elevator pitch, the less inspiring I got. And it wasn't until one day when I logged onto a call and I was like, okay, screw this. This is just too complicated. I'll just tell that very story why I care about this organization. And at the time, I worked for Boston Scores, an inner city after school program that provided soccer programming for kids. And I said, so we provide, soccer programming for kids. And the reason why I care about this is because kids in our program experience what it means to belong. And I think this picture is so beautiful. It's actually my favorite picture of the program. It just exemplifies that, right? There is no condition to being on that team. There is no monetary barrier. There is no one way you should be or have to be. And most importantly, there is no condition of achieving or being a great soccer player. Everyone, and that is, that was what we really believed in at Boston Scores, that everyone can be part of this team and everyone should feel the sense of belonging. And that's what resonated with me most. And because, and here we are coming to my story, right? When I grew up in Germany. I always felt that when I was a kid, I felt there was always this need to perform and to be good at something, to be part of something. So to me, more specific, I was actually kicked out of my flute orchestra because I did not practice enough. So I was just not good enough to be part of that orchestra anymore. Or I grew up playing track and field. It's not called playing track and field. Anyway, so I grew up as a track and field athlete. And the story of my life was that I always came fourth. So I was never put on that pedestal. My best friend always got a place on 1, 2, or 3. I always came fourth. And again, I was not the one who was recruited into the advanced team or who was drafted into competing on a state level. I always felt like in order to belong, I need to perform. And that's why it was so important to me to work for an organization that does not depend on that accepts anyone the way they are. And I think that is so important because that builds resilience, that builds confidence, and that helps kids grow up as healthy and resilient adults, right? So that's why I really believed in that. And that was my story. And once I told that story, suddenly I built that very personal connection with the funder, right? It wasn't the perfect pitch about our organization and all the different things we did, because we did so many different things, right? So we had a poetry program, we had a soccer program, we had a social entrepreneurship program, and there were so many aspects to all of that. But that was just the one place where I connected with the organization, and that was enough to build an emotional connection with the funder. And that's where I want to get to, because that is really how you are able to inspire others in getting that emotional connection. And that is why, and we are coming back to that image that I showed earlier. I'll quickly go back. That's why I'm saying that your personal story is so much more relevant. Let's think in terms of dating, right? So do you date someone because they are 5 foot something or 6'2", or do you date someone because, they like, chicken parmesan or something? No, you don't. You date someone because they tell you that story of how they grew up. They tell you, a funny story about their childhood, and you understand their values. You date them because you think they're funny, because the stories they tell you are just make you laugh, right? So it's not about the what, it's about the actual connection. So that is the key piece to your story. And if you pull up your cheat sheet, you will find that prompt. You will find 2 prompts, right? You will find 2 prompts. One is you can go about telling your own story in 2 ways. So what is a moment when you realized your organization's work was important? So maybe there is something, where, you worked with a kid or an adult, or helped, rescued a dog or whatever. Can you remember one moment in time when you realized your organization's work was important? And the other way you can go about this, telling your own story, is finding that one word that connects you with your organization's mission. So in my case, that one word connection is belonging, because I felt like it's so difficult to belong as a kid. I found it so difficult to belong anywhere if you don't perform, or if you don't succeed, or if you're really good at something. I felt that was a barrier to belonging. And I felt that, it made me doubt in myself, that I did not have this sense of belonging. So what is the one word connection? And since we only have 30 minutes today, I encourage you to fill that out on your own leisure, whether it is, that one moment in time, finding that one moment in time when you realized your work is really important, and or understanding, okay, what is the one word connection that I have? And I think in the cheat sheet, I I expanded on that a little bit. So that one word connection should ideally be around a specific outcome or a value that you find most important in your organization's work. And then you explain why that is. All right. So let's move on to your organization story. So your organization story, one core problem, which I often notice when I talk to other nonprofit leaders, is that a lot of folks talk about their organization in terms of features. So what is a feature? A feature could be, we serve 1,500 kids around the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, or we provide soccer-based after-school programming, and we also have a social entrepreneurship program. Does that inspire me? Not really. So the key is to talk in terms of benefits. And in order to understand that concept, I want you to throw in the chat what are some features and what are some benefits of a phone. Okay, Estefania says connection is a benefit. Right? A phone helps you connect with others, right? Right now, my great uncle, he's actually he's being admitted to a nursing home. And for me, having my phone, being abroad, so he lives in Germany, I'm abroad. For me, the phone is one of the ways in which I can still have that connection with him, because I cannot physically be there, right? So connection. Kylie says a feature is, you can do FaceTime, and the benefit is talking to your niece long distance. Exactly, right? So keeping connections with your family. Feature, instant access to communication, benefit, align efforts across geographical locations. Exactly, right? Especially if you let's say if you work remote, like in your day-to-day work, you can install Zoom on your phone, so a great feature. But the benefit is you can connect with your colleagues, you can collaborate on projects. Okay, features, compatible with headset, benefit, ability to move around with the hands-free. Exactly, right. That's what Toby said. Jen said, we provide practical services and social ops to older adults who wish to remain at home as they age. Benefit, connection, belonging, peace of mind. Exactly, right. So Jen is already talking about her organization, right? Translating that concept of features versus benefits to her organization. So that is exactly the next prompt. So if we think in terms of your organization, what are some features and what are some benefits of the work that your organization is doing? And you can fill that out in your worksheet, or you can throw it in the chat. Would be great to see some more examples of features and benefits of your organizations, the organizations that you work for. Anyone wants to share the features and benefits? Priya says, low barrier, client-driven resource for immigrant and refugee families, benefits, access, and choice. So you provide low barrier. So one hack actually that I apply, especially with my clients, is so our mission is X, so that. What is the so that? That will help you get to the benefits of your work, right? So we provide soccer-based after-school programming. So that. What is the so that? I'll wait for a few more responses. What is your so that? Just remember so that. So Unbound Visual Art says number of art exhibits. So you put up, let's say 10 art exhibits in a year, and the benefits are learning opportunities. So what happens? So I would ask so that as often as you can. So what is the, you know, what is the so that of the learning opportunities? What happens as a result of the learning opportunities? Anyone else? Exactly. I love that, what you just said, Priya. When we give immigrants access and power to choose, it is tied to them feeling worthy. Exactly. These are, you know, this is why you're doing this work, because you believe that everyone should feel worthy. Everyone should have a choice. So for Joanna, the so that is, so she's doing her work so that youth have knowledge to plan for the future and own their economic success. Okay, so for them to become economically successful. Victoria says, feature, so you provide youth programs, benefits. Young people learn to appreciate the trees in their urban environment, learn about how they can make a difference, right? So you empower youth to make a difference in their very own natural environment. Okay, change is possible as a result of learning. Exactly, right? So so that is the one key phrase that I want to leave you with today, to get to the benefits of your organization. So try to talk about the benefits of your work as often as you can, and try to features could be, your mission. The benefits is usually, or can often be, expressed in the vision. So why are you doing this work? Why are you providing art exhibitions? What is the so that of your organization? And then if you go back to your cheat sheet, you will see a prompt. And for some reason, I pulled up the wrong presentation where I have a few slides that are not being shown. So now the key is, of course, to put it together, right? So the way this could sound is, I believe that your organization's work is important because, and now you talk about the benefits of your work. I realized that when, and now you put in your personal story or that one word connection, right? So I believe that our work at Boston Scores is important because kids will feel a sense of belonging. And the way I connect that with that concept is because when I grew up as a kid, I felt I could not belong without performing or succeeding in a specific domain. So that is basically the essence of storytelling, right? Storytelling, and that's what I wanted to leave you with, right? Is actually just about that emotional connection. It's not about the perfect elevator pitch. It's not about finding a cookie cutter communications framework. It's just about telling others why you care about this work and explaining why this work is important, right? So we are going back to this slide, right? It's basically the balance of the emotional connection, your personal story, and your organization's story. So the heart and the mind. Okay, so that's all I got for you today. Before you leave, I would appreciate if you could share in the chat what was most useful for you today. And yeah, I'll hang on for a little bit in case you have questions, or if you want to practice your your story. Feel free to come off mute or post in the chat or email me if you have any more questions. Okay, so Myrna says she loved the "so that" prompt. Kylie says the features benefits exercise was great. Learning the difference between feature and benefit. Priya says she needs to change her approach. Toby says it was great to hear your own story, right? So I'm sure if you remember, and that's the power of storytelling, right? If you remember anything about this webinar, it's probably the story that I told you about, the concept of belonging. That is you might forget a lot of what I said today, but you will remember that story. I'm sure of that. Okay, Victoria says the put it together framework. Okay, Joanna says she's gonna use the worksheet. All right. And Unbound Visual Art said the one word. Yeah, I found that really helpful when I thought about or when I started to think about, okay, what's the one word connection? And oftentimes I do that actually, and I'm just gonna ramble in case someone wants to stay on and ask a question or thinks about a question. I often use that in when I facilitate board trainings or board meetings. I ask, as an icebreaker, I ask, what is your one word connection? And then, in the board training, let's say we talk about fundraising. Fundraising can feel intimidating, right? And about money, and nobody wants to do it. But in setting the stage with that one word connection, that gives me an opportunity to come back to the actual why, to the reason that everyone is actually doing this work, right? It's never about money. It's about that one word, or about that one time when you stood on the soccer field and saw the kids play and bond and laugh and play together, when you realize, wait, this is so important. This work is absolutely important. Yeah, so I love that prompt. I often use it as an icebreaker to then, realign throughout the workshop or the facilitation to say, okay, it's not about the money. It's actually about that. It's about that one word. It's about that one story. It's about your personal story. It's about why you joined this board. It's not about the money. Okay. So Suzanne says, this is such a simplistic approach and formula, and it calls us to reflect on the why, which is essential. I appreciate this workshop and worksheet so much. Thank you. Oh my God. I'm glad. I hope to have opportunities. Okay. Thank you. Okay, Amir says, thank you. Hi, Amir. Jen, interesting session. Okay. Thanks, Kylie. Okay. Okay. I'll hang on in case you want to come off mute. Any questions? Hi, is it John with Unbound Visual Arts?
Yes, it's John.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So this was very
1
timely
second. I think
because
I'll stop sharing. Sorry, I'll stop,
okay.
not stop, I'll stop sharing. Exactly. That's a good idea, actually. And I'll also try to stop the recording.